Hello, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome to Random Thoughts from me, Ted Bear. There's a lot of anger and yelling on the internet. And no, I know this is not new information. But specifically, in the last couple of weeks, since a certain video about how a woman walking in New York will get attention, I've seen a lot of anger between feminists and people who don't like them. The problem I've had when I watch this video and other videos in response is the absolute and narrow, extremely angry vision of the subject being discussed. And it's an all or nothing view. I mean, if you don't like my point of view, you are the devil. Yeah. No one is absolute evil or absolute good. Okay? Even Mother Teresa and Gandhi had those moments where they would just as soon kick somebody's butt. They didn't, but I'm sure there is that one moment. Let me get back to the story. It is that anger that turns a simple debate into a fight between extremists. Now, as a part 2 of my video, Shooting Yourself in the Foot, I wanted to show how extremists and how all this yelling and screaming creates a whole lot more of unwanted foot piercings. Now, to illustrate my point, I have this. This is known as a protractor. It's used to finding angles. You set this point at the middle of the bend, and you can read what the angle is. Now, since you can read from the right to the left and from the left to the right, 140 degrees right here, an obtuse 140 degree angle right here can be an acute 40 degree angle if you read it from the other side. Spoiler alert, this is going to come in handy. Now, from 90 degrees to this line right here, this is the right side, the right 0 to 180 degree angle. I'm calling this the right, not because it's correct, because it just happens to be on the right side. Remember, this isn't a protractor, this is an argument. Now, on the other side, from the 0 to 180, we have the left, which is just because it's on the left-hand side. Now, these two marks just above that 0 line, at 10 degrees, 170 degrees, are the extreme ends of the protractor to show the extreme ends of the argument. Now here, at 90, I'll mark, that's the neutral zone. People who haven't really decided on one side or the other when it comes to a particular argument. Even though it's really hard to truly be neutral, you always have an opinion. You know, something will affect you one way or another. But for the purposes of this discussion. Now, you can see in this example that there is 70 degrees before you reach the extreme. Now, I was called out, and rightly so, in my video, Gamergate Shooting Yourself in the Foot, is that it's unfair to judge an entire side of an argument because of the 10% that you're upset with. You know, all men are evil. All feminists are, well, you get the idea. It's not fair to judge an entire side of an argument because that 10% However, not excusing my behavior and not pointing out how other people do the exact same thing. I speak for myself. Now, it's tough to remember that there is more to an argument than that 10%, when that 10% gets 90% of the media coverage. However, the media needs to keep up their revenue streams, but that's a whole nother set of videos. And speaking of that 10%, the 10% that I'm working with here is not a real number. 10% is a round number that gives you enough distance between 0 to the tape so I can have this closer and I don't have to put the protractor or the argument right in your noggin. Okay? Plus, if I was using the real numbers, that's not the point. However, finally, when it comes to the protractor, now, I'm using this pen to illustrate how things shift when an extremist starts an attack. As you see, when somebody goes on the attack and starts stomping up and down on their side of the argument, what does it do? People move from the neutral zone to the opposite side. And same this way. And that is how you shoot yourself in the foot. You know, there's a recent theme to these videos, and it's more than just the yelling. It's the common thread that both sides, and the fact that the further you go from the center, the greater your tunnel vision. And the problem with tunnel vision is that it keeps you from seeing another way. And it can keep you from seeing what the other side wants. And, well, now I was getting ready to post this yesterday, and something really didn't sit right with me, so last night I was talking it over with my production staff of Me, Myself, and I, and I realized that when I was writing this, I was asking too many why questions. And even though asking why questions is a large part of me regaining control of my sanity when it comes to this issue, and therefore this video, I only needed to ask one why question. Why is there so much yelling and screaming? Now, yelling and screaming usually is born out of frustration. It's an escalation of an argument based on the need to be heard, feelings that your point is not being validated or listened to, or your needs are not being met. Now, it's been my experience that people yelling and screaming don't do very well in the listening department, especially in the arguments about, feminism and equality. Neither side can hear that both sides are screaming about equality when they're not calling each other the root and source of all evil. This has been Random Thoughts from me, O. Ted Bear. I hope I made some sense, and as always, I just hope I helped.